Welcome to Uncle Jimmy's podcast. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation.
So here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Warriors, buckle up. Today on Uncle Jimmy's podcast, we're not just talking resilience. We're staring it down, scars and all. Our guest walked through fire most people only read about in books. Born and raised in Buenos Aires, she immigrated to the United States at 31 with nothing but grit. At 42, she started her bachelor's in social work, graduated at 46. Then 2 months later, she got the call. Breast cancer, lumpectomy. 3 years back in Argentina healing. She returned to the U.S. in 2015, started her master's degree at 50, and then became a fully licensed therapist in 2018 and founded Dragonfly Therapy Services, where she now helps people rewrite their own trauma stories. She survived cancer, abusive relationships, depression, and suicidal darkness. Yet, she never once called herself the victim. At 60, she celebrated her birthday in Hawaii, fell back in love with the ocean, and moved to Panama in December in 2025 so she could wake up every morning to the waves crashing outside her bedroom window. She's living proof that the warrior inside you doesn't die. It just waits for you to remember it's there. Please welcome to the show the unstoppable force, the founder of Dragonfly Therapy, and the woman who turned every hell she walked through into a map for the rest of us. Zulma, how are you doing today?
So great, Jimmy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be on the show. And what a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody listening, Zulma and I just had a full session over on Riverside, which is where I shoot. But here we are. We're on Zoom. We're going to give Zoom its due justice. We're not going to be talking over each other, nothing here, just like we did on Riverside for an hour, right? You got to give credit where it's due, right, Zulma?
Right. I'm all for keeping it real. So
Exactly. And here we are, right? And I'm excited because Zulma's an unbelievable guest, and I'm so excited to have her on. So at 31, right, you immigrated to the United States. You started college at 42 and got your cancer diagnosis 2 months after graduation. What was the exact moment you realized I'm either going to quit on myself right now or I'm going to become an unstoppable warrior?
So when I was first diagnosed, I went immediately into the why me, right? And I didn't stay there for too long, but I don't have children of my own. But at the time, my mom was alive. So I had my mom, I had my sister, I have nieces, I had girlfriends. And I started changing the question from why me to why not me. If it wasn't me, would I have preferred that it was one of them who had the diagnosis? And the answer is no. So I changed the question to why not me, which moved me away from the victim mentality. And then I had a decision to make. I can sit in the corner and wait to die, or I can stand up and fight. Spoiler alert, here I am 14 years later. So it was like that moment where it's like, oh shit, like this is what is happening, what I'm going to do with that.
And Zomer, I think it's human nature, right? When people get sick and they go through things, they always question that, right? That's almost the first question of why me, right?
Yes. But I think that if we put it, and I always emphasize, I don't have children, because if you had children, would you want that diagnosis on your child?
Yeah. I don't have any children either. I'm lucky enough. That's why it's Uncle Jimmy's. That's why I tell people it's Uncle Jimmy's podcast. I got 2 nephews and a niece. There's no kids for me either. And, so I got no kids, and that's the same thing with me. It's one of those things where it's life, right? Life comes at you quick, it comes at you fast, and sometimes you can, right? For me, for so long, I lived that victim mentality, right? I always poor me, right? I was always sludging around, and I was always slow walking around, and always had my head down and upset at life and pissed off, right? Until last September, I had a breakup of my ex-girlfriend, and I lost her because of my ways and who I was. And, I was mad at the world, and I had to do a deep dive, right? A deep dive into myself and my life, where I was going, what I was doing, how I was talking to people, right? And in that deep dive, I looked myself in the mirror and I said to myself, who do I want to be? Who am I becoming, right? Because I'm 41, but I'm going to say I don't like the child that I am, because I was a child. right? I would throw temper tantrums. And so I looked myself in the mirror. I forgave myself. I forgave others. And then I got on this path of growing, right? This journey of life and actually waking up every day and enjoying every single moment of every day. And it's powerful when you're able to do that, when you're able to reclaim your own life, right?
Absolutely. Shame on you for being so young.
You know, and you've had to reclaim your life many times, right? Because I can only imagine when you immigrated here, right, at 31 to a new country, having to learn a new language. What was that like for you?
It was a huge cultural shock because, but at the beginning, it was like, so I didn't speak English, but I was able to write and read because I have English all throughout high school. But it was like I arrived to the States in December. So it was like a stepping into a Hallmark movie with all the Christmas lights. And my God, I was mesmerized. And then fucking reality set in really quick, right? Like, it was hard at times. I've been bullied for a long, long time because of my accent or because I didn't pronounce a word the right way or whatever until I told one of my managers, I said, can you read a book in Spanish? And there was this silence. I didn't think so. And I turned around and left. And then he didn't bully me again. It's like I think that, learning about the new culture and and I fell in love with the United States at that time.
Yeah. And I think people fail to realize, right? Those people that bullied you and talked about, the way you speak, right? That those are ignorant people, right? Ignorance on their part that they don't understand the history of the United States, right? We are a nation of immigrants, At one point in
Right.
time, all of us that are here, like I come from Irish and Polish descent. My family came from Ireland. My family came from Poland. We all came from somewhere, right? Unless you're Native American. And that's the only way, and we're a nation that was built on immigrants. Immigrants came over and built the railroad. They built the big cities that you see today in this great country of ours. But we are a nation that was built by immigrants, for immigrants. And that's the greatest thing about America that I love is that it's the land of the free and the home of the brave, right? Anybody, I think it was Reagan that said it, you can go to Paris, but you can't become a Frenchman. You can go to Russia, but you can't become Russian. But you can come to the United States of America and you can become an American. That's why I love this country, right?
Yes.
It's powerful.
Absolutely.
It's powerful, right? And as a young girl, you're 31, right? Where did your journey start when you came here at 31?
So I had an uncle and his family living in California. So I was working for him. He had a bakery, a Mexican bakery, although he was from Argentina too, but like it was a Mexican neighborhood. So I was working with him. He helped me, get a room. Like, so for a couple of weeks I was at his house, but then I became a roommate, a new experience. I had never lived with anybody. And eventually shit didn't work out, but I forever grateful because I landed and I was like, I remember like I almost caused an accident because I wanted to cross the street and I didn't know you had to push a button for the traffic light to
Yeah.
and I was like, when the fuck are this motherfucker going to stop? So I just went and I had like, and then I went to my uncle's house and I said, how the fuck do you cross the street here? And then everybody was laughing at that. You had to push the button. I'm like, well, how the fuck do I supposed to know that? You know what I mean? Like, so I am glad that I had that support at the beginning, but then eventually shit didn't work out and I just went a different route. And I live in Playa del Rey for about 2 years. So I will leave my job and again go to the ocean and see the sunset and then go home. And I love living by the ocean, which is going to come full circle as we move through the interview, right? But it's like, oh my God, I just love the ocean and the waves and being able to get in the water.
Yeah, and there's a book, right? And let me see if I can find it actually. I think I actually have it right here because I've been reading it. I'm rereading it, and it's called Blue Mind, right? It's by Wallace J. Nichols. It's the surprising science, right, that shows how being near, in, on, or underwater can make you happier, healthier, more connected, and better at what you do.
What? I
Yeah,
never heard of it.
Yeah, it's called Blue Mind by Wallace J. Nichols. And I've been reading it. I've read it many times. I've read it. I live here in Boston, right by the ocean. I was lucky enough as a kid, I grew up, my grandparents had a summer house down Cape Cod, which, for my listeners who are in the Boston area, they're familiar with it. But, for you, you're probably not. Cape Cod is where Bostonians go on vacation in the summertime. It's about a 60, 70-minute drive down to the ocean. And as a kid, right, when I tell you that we had it was a small little shack, right, small little cottage on the water, but it was on the water. And when I tell you, at night, every night, and this is the biggest thing, because we don't have it anymore, it's not in the family, but the biggest thing I miss is having the window open, and it was my grandmother's bed that was right next to the window, and listening to the waves crash onto the beach each night, right, as I slept. But I would wake up in the morning, right? And because it was salt water, I would have that salt on my face and everything. But it was a feeling, it was a feeling now that as I'm an adult, right? I think how lucky I was to have that, right? How grateful I was to have that. But yeah, by being in the ocean, I spent my summers down there. I spent swimming in the ocean 24/7, 365. I love the water. I often say when I go on vacation, I spend more time in the pool of the ocean than I do anywhere else, because I just love to swim.
Right. So there's a famous movie with Robert De Niro that was filmed in Cape Cod. It was a great movie. I cannot remember the name, but it was a great movie. So I love, so that's how I know the area, because of that movie, but I've never been to it.
Yes, well, I'll have to send you that book, right? I'll have to send you the name of it so you can read it, because it's so powerful. So when the doctor said to you, right, breast cancer, what was the first thought that went through your mind? Not the polite one, the raw one, right?
I was like, fuck, I'm gonna die. And not only was the trauma of hearing the word cancer, but also that the doctor was a fucking asshole. He had a God complex, and the way that he didn't even make eye contact. He was like looking at the results, and he was like, yeah, I was right. You have cancer. And it was like, whoa, I'm gonna die tomorrow. I didn't know that. To me, cancer was a death sentence. So I was like, wow, I didn't know there was different stages, 0 to 4. Like, I learned that as I went through the shit, but it was like, fuck, my life is over.
Yeah, because that's one of the biggest things, right? As I say, I've dealt with cancer in my family for so long. My grandparents, my grandfather, my mother, my father, my uncle, my two uncles. It's forever, right? And it's like the big C, right? The big C word when they come in and they tell you cancer, right? I remember my dad. My dad was diagnosed, 6 months, I think 6 or 7 months before he died. He was diagnosed with cancer, and I'll never forget my father. Still to the last day, his last breath was he died on a Friday, and I remember him telling me Friday before he passed. He said, "Jimmy, don't worry about it. I'm going back to work on Monday." You know. Yeah,
Wow.
he didn't want us to worry about him. He didn't want us to stress, and we knew he was dying, but he kept telling us he was good. He was, he had that upbeat, positive attitude, even on his deathbed.
Right, right.
So you moved back to Argentina, right, for 3 years after your lumpectomy. What did you have to bury there to come back stronger?
So when I moved back, I wanted to be close to my family, to my friends from there. And I have to bury the version of me who was a people pleaser. I'm a recovered people pleaser, which a lot of people cannot believe that, who know me now. But I was like, "Oh, what is going to make Jimmy happy? And what is going to make Peter happy? And what is going to make..." And I have to bury that version of me to put myself first, because now it was a matter of like, I have to do this or I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the hottest things too, right? Being a people pleaser, because I was that myself, right? And I tried many times to stop doing it, but then I felt like a void where I'm like, no, these people need me, right? They need me. And then like I had this come to Jesus moment where I was like, these people don't fucking need me. They just want my money, or they just want to talk. They don't need anything from me. They just, I spent a lot of my life, right, Zulma, transactional relationships, right? And that's the hottest thing for me to think, when I look back, when I came through with clarity and I came through, out on the other side of my anxiety and depression of learning that, my whole life was almost transactional relationships, built off of what I could give financially to others.
So it's like so interesting that you say that, because it's like you needed to feel needed in order to have value. So like what happens is that when you become real, right? Like, so a lot of people are not going to like it.
None of them like it, Zulma. None of them talk to me anymore.
Right, exactly. Because it's like the old version of Jimmy that I can use is
Yeah.
not longer there. And
Yeah.
it's like I always encourage people to be their authentic selves so they can find their tribe. Because if I'm like, Jimmy, fudge instead of fuck, or sugar instead of shit, then I am creating this facade that then we start working together or living together or whatever. And then I say, fuck this shit. And you're like, who the fuck are you? Right? And it's like, I think that we go to that process where it's like, no, you know what? First of all, it's not our job to make nobody happy. That is an impossible task.
Yeah.
Happiness is a personal decision. No matter what I do, I cannot make you happy. If you don't want to be happy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I started to make Zulma happy. What does Zulma want?
Yeah.
What does Zulma want to wear? Right? Like, so I look in the fucking mirror, I so happen to like it, and I fucking wear it.
Yeah.
Because
And how powerful is that, Zulma?
it is so powerful because it's like, you know what? Why are you wearing that? Because I fucking like it. And that is
Exactly.
the end of the conversation. I'm not
Yeah.
asking permission anymore.
Anymore. Exactly.
Once you connect with your true self, it's like there is truly, I think that it comes with age or the diagnosis like that. But it's like once you get to that moment when you realize that it's not your job. Hey, listen, you're not tequila. You're not going to make everybody happy.
So
And
true.
you start looking into your soul and what makes you happy. And once you take care of you, you're going to become a better person and a better partner and a better son and a better whatever because you are taking care of you. We
Yeah.
cannot give from an empty vessel. And it's like taking care of you has to come first. But that is selfish. That is fucking necessary.
Exactly. So true. That's like you said, right? How many people you lose along the way when you become yourself, right? Your authentic self. And I look back now and I say to myself, I don't give a fuck who I lost or who's not along for the ride because you know what? It's not meant to be them.
They're not your people.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good. Stay there so you can make room for the ones who do belong in your life.
Exactly. And my circle now is very small. My tribe is very small, right? But it's the most loving, the most unconditional love. You know, when I used to always think too, Zulma, that I have to, I have to make everyone happy, right? No, I make myself happy. And now that I'm happy, being around other people, being with people, spending quality time watching movies, I just smile and I take it all in, and I say to myself, I couldn't do this, 10 months ago because I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with myself,
Right.
and it changes your whole perspective on life, right? And it actually opens your eyes to the point of like, hey, tomorrow's not guaranteed for any of us. So I have today, I'm gonna make the most of today, the best of today, and tomorrow may never come. But you know what? I'm sure as fuck gonna give today the best that I have.
Exactly. And that's all what it is today,
Yeah.
this moment.
Yeah. So Zomer, at 50, you started your master's while still carrying the weight of cancer, abuse, and depression. What did people closest to you say when you told them you were going to do it anyway?
You're fucking nuts. What are you doing? No, that's crazy. No, don't do that. And I do appreciate, other people's opinions, but opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one and they stink. That was a reflection of their limitations, not of mine.
Yeah.
This is my fucking life. Why the fuck do you care? I'm not asking you to pay for my school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking do it. If it doesn't work out, I win anyway because I gathered information of what
Yeah,
not to do.
You tried,
Exactly.
Yeah. Because I tell people, right, oftentimes you can have the biggest goals, right, the best goals in life, and you want to achieve everything. And the first thing I tell people is you got to do to achieve your dreams. The first thing you got to do is one, wake up, right? To achieve your dreams, you got to wake up, right? So true, right? And people look at me sometimes like I'm crazy when I say that. And I go, well, what's your dream? And they say this. And I go, well, how are you going to achieve it? They say, well, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I go, well, the first thing you got to do is wake the fuck up. You got to wake up before you achieve the dream, right? And it's so true because, one of my biggest goals in life, and one of my dreams is to get into journalism, right? I want to get into journalism and I want to, take my podcast to levels of, higher ambitions. But the thing that I love is through journalism, through doing my podcast is meeting wonderful people like you, Zulma, right? The journey of life. The premise of my podcast is there's 8 billion people in this world. And for me, I'm going to interview as many people as I can till I leave this earth, right? because I think everybody has a journey. Everybody's story is unique, right? Like you, 31, you come to America, you live in the dream, the American dream, right? You get sick, then you go home, you come back, you're going to school, you're doing that, you're achieving things, right? But again, you're achieving, your dreams, but you had to wake up first to achieve them, right?
Right. I love that. Yes.
So you specialize, right, in trauma, anxiety, and depression. How many times have you had to use your own tools on yourself mid-session because a client's story mirrored yours too closely?
Several times. But I think that it is the magic of being present and being authentic, where it's like I can connect with what you are saying because I went through something similar. However, no, I don't expect to know how you are feeling. I only know how the fuck I felt.
Yeah.
But you are the expert in your own life. I'm here. We are working together. I don't have I barely know what the fuck to do with my own life, let alone tell you what to do with yours. So we are going to find the fucking answers together.
But it must be, special, right, to you, to you and the client, right? Because I find with my therapy that I've had, many therapists that I've gone through, especially talk therapy, right? That, I can sit across from somebody and I'm a city kid and I can see bullshit right through it and see who they are. And I can see sometimes like this lady, my therapist has no fucking clue what I'm talking about, right? She's never, she's never had to beg, borrow, and steal in her life, right? And she's never been through shit that I've been through. So who the fuck is she to give me information about, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Well, motherfucker, you never knew what I'm talking about or been through. So how are you going to give me the information, right? So it must be pretty cool that you're in there, right? And you're probably going through some things, right? And someone's telling you a story and you're probably clicking in your head like, oh shit, I've been there before. And that's the power of therapy, right? Of having someone that can relate to your journey, to relate to your story, right? And say, hey, well, we can do it, let's talk about it this way, or let's talk about it this way. Because oftentimes I think therapy where things get lost in therapy is especially in the States, in Western medicine per se, right? Everything's a pill. Let's throw a pill at it. Let's throw a pill at it. That's how it's going to fix everybody, right? I'm just learning now with my anxiety and depression, right? I always thought that I would have to be on anxiety and depression the rest of my life. I always thought that. But talking to a friend of mine, we've had conversations back and forth to the point now where it's like, I can come off my medication, because I'm not going to have anxiety and depression my whole life, right? And my end goal is to get to that point where I can come off meds, because I was under the assumption from the Western medical establishment that I'm going to be on meds the rest of my life to make me happy and to make my anxiety go away. But there's tools and there's techniques we can use to stay clear of having to take the medication, right?
Absolutely. And so I always say the best tools for anxiety and depression are the combination of therapy and medication. But the medication is only until you can do the shit that you're supposed to be working on in therapy. I was so against medication because I was like, I don't want to take it for the rest of my life, right? Again, my therapist said, like, okay, well, you take it. So when you're depressed, you are here, right? The medication brings you here to where you can work on the stuff that we are discussing in therapy. So eventually you just stay here and then you can come off of the medication. But it is a process. It needs to be done with a doctor. And there is no rush. Medication is just a different tool, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's like, can you do it on your own? Of course. But why the fuck would you want to do it on your own when there are all these tools that can get you there more efficiently and faster? So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, if we consider medication a tool, just like therapy is, many other techniques that are out there, it's like, okay, we're going to use the best tool that we have available. And then okay, so this is how I explain therapy to my clients. If you want to build a house, you go to Home Depot, you buy the materials, you buy the tools, and you build your house. You want to build a different life. So I'm going to take you, like, therapy is like going on a shopping spree, and I'll show you where the tools are, where are they for. So you want to hang a picture, here are the nails, here is the hammer. I'll show you how to do it, but I'm not going to do it for you. Because next time that you need to hang a fucking picture, you're going to need me.
Yeah.
I want you to know what the hammer is for. and what the nails are for and how to use it. So you hang the picture. You don't fucking carry the hammer in your pocket because you need it. You leave it in the garage and you use it when you need it. So it's
Yeah.
the same with certain techniques where, like for anxiety or depression or trauma, where it's like you use them, you learn them. My goal when you walk into my office is to get you the fuck out of my office. Because that means that you learned the tools and you know how to use them. Because life is always going to happen. So it's not about not having anxiety. It's about realizing that anxiety is in the driver's seat and I want to reclaim that. So what tools do I need to use to be in charge of the anxiety instead of allowing the anxiety to be in charge of me?
Yeah. No, and that's powerful too, right? And I think I misspoke, right? Because that's one of the things too that you did mention. Coming off my medication will obviously be under the supervision of my therapist, right? Because you have to titrate down and all that. And I
Right.
understand that. But I don't want my listeners to take that I am coming off my meds 100% and just throwing them away and I'm okay. I'm good to go. No, it will be a process through my therapist. And obviously it will be through a session as well when we discuss that next of possibly titrating down and starting the process of coming off of them. So, yeah, no, I appreciate you pointing that out as well because sometimes I don't like to mix messages and put the wrong stuff out there. So I appreciate that.
Of course.
So you survived, right? Suicidal ideation and still say you were never a victim. Where exactly is the line between owning your pain and refusing to let it own you?
I think the line is in refusing to be a victim. So it's like just like putting into your head that I'm not sure why the fuck I'm going through this, but I've been through shit before and I'm going to overcome this one too. I'm not sure what tomorrow holds, but can I keep pushing through today? So I'm going to find that out, right? Like,
Y-
and I think that is something in your mindset that needs to click in order for you to realize that these dark moments are temporary, but suicide is forever. So it's
Yeah.
like if this pain is temporary, you've been through pain before and you're going to be through pain again. But it's like realizing that tomorrow will be different. Maybe not,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to find out if I'm not there to wake up tomorrow.
Yeah. And to all my listeners out there, right? 988 is a number here in the States that you can call, you can text. It's operated 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can text it, they'll text you back. It's the suicide and crisis hotline. I've used it myself. It's been a lifeline for me. One of my biggest things was leaning on that at like 3 in the morning when nobody's around and nobody to talk to. And every time they answered the phone and every time they answered a text, and it's such a pivotal tool, I think, right, for people that feel like they don't have anybody, that they can't talk to anybody. And I say this to people that are going through, suicidal ideations that, we need you here. You're here for a purpose. And we love you and support you. And you can reach out to myself, to Zulma 988, reach out to your therapist or family. Because I know sometimes people feel like they don't have that person or that village that they can reach out to, right? So it's okay, right? It's okay not to be okay. You can reach out. 988's a perfect tool to reach out and to talk, and I tell people that are going through it, talk about it. It's okay to talk
Uh,
about it.
Absolutely, because when you talk about it, it becomes real. When it becomes real, we can do something about it. Excuse me. I rather listen to you say the same shit for the hundredth time than be crying at your funeral.
Exactly. And too many people, right, think that they're going to be a burden that they don't want to hear. I say it all the time that, Zoma, when I was going through it, I remember being in a room of 500 people at a conference and I still felt alone, right? I still felt all by myself in a room of 500 people. I felt, alone. And there's things that happen, right? That, I look back now and when I was going through it and in my darkest moments, I had a village. I had people I could reach out to. And I didn't. I still didn't. I still thought I was alone, right? Because I was so lost in my own head. I was so lost in the darkness that, I had so many people I think back to that had that lantern, right? That light that was trying to guide me towards back to the path of being okay. And I didn't see it because I was just so friggin' lost, right? So lost that, you know, I was almost not here. That's the point where I got to, and I am still here, and I'm grateful, and I'm honored to have you on the podcast, and honored to be able to bring stories like this to light, right? So people can hear that it's okay. It's okay not to be okay, but to talk about it, right? To normalize the
Absolutely.
conversation around it.
Yes, because and I'm so glad that you're still here and that you are doing this, and it is my honor to be with you. I think the darkness brings a lot of shame. So we are ashamed of not being strong enough. And that is such a way that the brain has to fucking keep you isolated. And it's like because the brain doesn't like to be challenged, right?
Yeah,
So it's like if you hang out with people who want the best for you, and but you have this victim mentality that nobody loves me, the brain doesn't like to see that. So
yeah,
because it's being challenged. So it's like, no, let's not fucking do that. So the shame and the considering that asking for help is a weakness, when in reality, being vulnerable is your biggest strength
yeah.
because we cannot do it alone. And even if we could, why the fuck would you
Exactly.
have to do it alone?
No, and that, that's gonna bring me to the next question, right? But before I get to the next question, I want to give a big shout out to Zoom. We're here on Zoom, we're recording, and we're able to have a conversation now. Zulma and I were over on another platform, and we were trying to talk, and there was a delay, and we just talked over each other. So here we are, right? So what's the darkest thought you've ever had about yourself? And how did you weaponize it into fuel instead of letting it end you?
That I wasn't worth it, that wasn't good enough, that I didn't deserve to be here. Right. Like, so with the help of my therapist, I start building myself and realizing that shit, I deserve to be here because I am a person just like anyone else. So why do I put everybody else before me? They deserve to be here, but not me. And it's like, no, you know what? I woke up today, so that means that my mission is not complete.
Yeah. Your mission, your purpose is not complete, right? I say it every day now that I'm out on the other side of it, and I can think with clarity that every time I wake up and my feet hit the ground, I'm off and running, right? I'm off and going. There's not enough hours in the day for what I need to do, but I'm going to get done as much as I can, because one of the big things, Omar, I do now is, and I don't let it go because tomorrow is not guaranteed for any of us, is making sure my loved ones, right, the ones I love, that they get a text sometimes in the morning and in the afternoon or at night, just letting them know, "Hey, how you doing? I love you," right? Just a little check-in to let them know, because you never know when the last time is you're gonna see somebody, right? You truly don't.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you are doing that because that's something that I encourage my clients who are going to grief. They lost somebody. My mom died, and I feel so guilty. I didn't spend time. It's just like, okay, how can we learn from that experience and then use that knowledge with the people who I can? So I didn't tell my mom I love you enough. Let's start fucking telling everybody around us I love you so we don't
Exactly.
have the same regret. We cannot go back and change the past, but we can look at it and learn from it. I'm so glad you are doing that because that means you are living in the present. And
Yeah.
you are absolutely right. Nobody has tomorrow guaranteed. So it's like if this is the last conversation I'm gonna have. Do I want to be a fucking bitch to you or do I want it to make it nice? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
like that saying like don't go to bed angry, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know if the other person is gonna wake up. Well, if you
Yeah.
don't wake up, well, fuck everybody else. But if the other person doesn't wake up, how do you deal with the guilt, right? Like, so it's I love that you are doing that. I
Yeah.
tell my clients to do that, and but I'm not doing it, so I'm gonna start doing it. Thank you for the inspiration.
And that's one of the biggest things, right? Zoma was right around Christmas, I think it was. You know, I I did a brief, podcast about Christmas and the true meaning of Christmas, right? And for me, the true meaning was, being in the present, right? Christmas is here, but it goes back to the story of Jesus being born in a manger, who with two parents who didn't know what to do, right? And there was no room at the inn, so they had to go to a manger, and he was born, and just the being in the present, right? Being in the moment of, we oftentimes worry about, hey, this happened 6 days ago and I'm not feeling good, or what's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen in a week, right? I don't worry about what happened yesterday. I'm not sure as hell ain't worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm right here, right now. And that's the
Right.
powerful thing, right? So abusive,
Absolutely.
right? Abusive relationships left scars on you that most people never see. What's one red flag you now teach every client that you wish someone had taught you at 30?
So that abuse is so subliminal, is so subtle. So abuse doesn't happen overnight. Abuse happens. I'm gonna speak for my own experience. Abuse happened where I told my boyfriend, "Oh, I'm gonna go out with my friends," and then on Friday, and then Friday came, and he would say like, "Are you sure you wanna go out with your friends? Because we don't spend that much time together. Why don't you stay and we watch a movie?" Oh, he's so sweet. He wants to spend time with me. Or we're gonna go to my family's house. Well, your family doesn't like me that much. Why don't we stay and we cook together? And then is just it starts like that, and to the point that your friends don't invite you anymore because you cancel at the last minute, and then you start feeling a shame and you don't share with your family what's going on, and you start becoming isolated. But it's not that, oh no, you don't go out with your friends. Is this, oh, like, so be very mindful when you are in a relationship if you start isolating yourself from your circle, your loved ones, your family, whatever, because that is a sign that something is not healthy in that relationship. Each partner needs to spend time with their own friends. And then we spend time together with our friends. But
Yeah,
it's like, I need my time with my friends. You need your time with your friends. When that starts, and life is always going to happen and get in the way, right? Like, but in general, if you always meet with your friends on a Tuesday night to share a beer and just shoot the breeze, why are you going to fucking stop? You've
yeah,
been doing it. That's a red flag. If I have brunch with my girlfriends once a month on Saturday morning, why I'm gonna stop? That is a red flag. Start realizing that, yeah, there might be a Saturday when I'm out of town for a wedding or whatever, but if I start canceling every Saturday, that is a problem.
that's
So
no
to
good.
be very aware of, are you isolating yourself either because you want to spend more time or because your partner is telling you that, oh, spend more time together.
Time to
Don't fucking play on your fucking PlayStation and we're going to spend more time together.
exactly.
You teach me how to play on the PlayStation and we spend time playing together. But
Yeah.
it's like, let's not isolate ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the big thing too. I think you're saying too is that it's okay in a relationship, right? To essentially have three relationships, right? One with your friends, both couples, right? Both guy and girl can have their relationships with their friends, and then you have your relationship together, right? And that's okay. But what I think so what people don't realize is that that's healthy. That's healthy, right? I think so many of us get stuck in unhealthy relationships, right? Unhealthy patterns and behaviors, right? That we actually think that that's the way it's supposed to be, that we are supposed to be isolated, right? That we are supposed to spend as much time as we can together. And hey, we're not going to so-and-so's house tonight for dinner because we don't want to go, she don't want to go and she canceled with their friends and I cancel with my friends. No, 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 no. You go out with your friends, I'll go out with mine, and we'll meet up tomorrow and have dinner together, right?
Absolutely. And that is because you've been hanging out with the guys every Tuesday night or every other Tuesday night. Why are you going to fucking change it now?
Exactly. Exactly. And the sci-fi, in the isolation too, right? From the abuser, right? And I'm just coming from a perspective of the abuser, right? Is often to isolate you, right? Isolate you from your family, your friends, your siblings, to isolate you from everybody. So he now has that grip and that power
Control.
over you, right? That
Right.
control over you that you think that, hey, that's okay now because he wants me home. He wants me to cook. He wants me to go with him. He wants me to watch him play PlayStation, right?
Right. But the thing is that the problem with that is that then he or she becomes your only reference point.
Yeah.
So when he tells you like, "Oh my God, you are so great. I love you so much. You are in heaven." And then the next morning is like, "You fucking stupid. You're good for nothing." You are devastated because like, what happened? Like you loved me last night. And there is no reference point
Yeah.
to ground you into who you truly are.
Yeah. And at that point, most of the time you've burned the bridges with your friends and your family. So it's only you and him, right?
Exactly. And that's where everything else happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So the big red flag is, isolation. When he starts or she starts to isolate you, or you even start to isolate yourself from your friends and family, that's the red flag of when it's time to, hey, pack up the bags and run as fast as you can, right?
Yes.
So you moved to Panama, right, at 60, just to wake up to the ocean every day. Was that move an act of healing or an act of defiance against every system that tried to keep you small?
An act of healing. Absolutely. When I went to Hawaii, I was so grounded. The 4 days I was there, like I realized how much I missed the ocean. And I was like, okay, I need to figure it out how the fuck to do this because I couldn't afford it in the States, but my soul needed that.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how the fuck I'm gonna make this happen? I pray about it. The answer was Panama. And here I am. And the thing is that I not only I want to be by the water, I want to be in the water, right?
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I just want to hear no, I want to be in the fucking ocean. So it's like realizing that I needed that for my soul.
And that's the powerful thing, right? At 60, just to be able to pack up, right? Going to
Six
Panama.
6 suitcases, 1 per decade. Like, I was like, "The fuck?" And I had to leave 1 in with my friend because the airline only allow 5. And
Oh,
then
okay.
when I came here, they only ship 1, so the other 4 came the next day. I didn't have fucking shoes, and I was like, "Oh, God." But yeah, I packed up and it was such a process because I went into my garage and I found those boxes that you're going to get to and then you never do. I found canceled checks from 2001. Remember, like 20 years ago, for those of you who were born yesterday, a long time ago, the bank will send your canceled checks with your statement. I was like, what the fuck is this doing in here?
The shit we save, right?
So I had to, and it was a very emotional process, but I was grieving a lot because a lot of the stuff has sentimental value. I
Yeah.
found a letter that my mom wrote to me when I turned 40. That was 20 years ago, and she's no longer alive. So I kept that letter because I'm
Yeah.
never going to have it again, right?
Yeah.
But it's like there were a lot of things that I was like, and I still pay a lot of money for overweight luggage, although I discarded a lot of shit, but I kept some of my books and some of my stuff because it's mine, is my identity that I'm bringing, those little nuggets of that I wanted to bring with me.
That's awesome. So when you hear clients, right, say, I'm too old to start over, what exact memory of your own life do you throw back at them?
So this is what I do. I laugh because there is no too old. Like I started my bachelor's at 42, my master's at 50, and English is not my first language. Like I moved at 60, I started podcasting at 15. I don't know what all means. Like, don't fucking tell me that because it doesn't. Number one, it's not true. Number two, it doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, tell me more about it because it's like, to me, that's not true.
That's awesome, right? Because people like to say that all the time, right? You're too old for this, you're too old for that. I believe, right, as long as you're alive and breathing, you're never too old for anything.
And so a lot of people are wary of growing old, right? Like, and it's like, what is the fucking alternative? So you don't
Yeah.
want to be old? Okay, you're gonna be fucking dead. So it's like
Yeah.
I am the queen of birthdays because there are a lot of people who didn't make it to 60. So I'm
Yeah.
honoring that I'm able to celebrate that birthday.
That birthday. Yeah. So you call yourself a warrior, right? What's the moment in your life when you finally stopped hoping someone would save you and decided to become the hero of your own story?
It was when I was still living with my mom. I was in Argentina. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. And one of my cousins, who was 32, probably a few months older than me, he had a stroke and died. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Because at 30, you think you have your entire life in front of you.
Yeah.
So that was a click I need because I've been toying with the idea of moving to the United States. But like that happened, and I was like, bitch, whatever you are waiting from the outside is what you have to do from the inside. And I went to my therapist and I said, I'm moving to the United States. And I think that probably in 4 months I moved.
And you moved, yeah. And that's one of the things, right? Life comes, right? And unfortunately, your cousin passes away at such a young age, right? And it puts it in the back of your head that we're not here forever, right? And that tomorrow's not guaranteed for any of us. So let's start doing what we want to do every day, right? Living the life we want to live, not the life that someone else wants for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's one of the hottest truths about trauma that most therapists are too afraid to say out loud?
Trauma is subjective. So there is no judgment of what trauma is. Like if we can be in the same situation and that situation can be traumatic to me and not be traumatic to you. So let's say that we are in a car and we have a car accident. That could be traumatic for me and be nothing to you. We are not on a fucking competition to be who has more trauma. Oh, because I had cancer, I have more trauma than you. We are all on the same fucking storm, not on the same boat. Some of us we are in canoes and other motherfuckers are on yachts, right? Like we are all in the same storm. But it's like that judgment that we do to ourselves and others that why, and I have done it myself, where it's like I survived cancer. Why the fuck is this traumatic to me when I survived cancer? It's like it's a complete different situation. And we are not comparing. So to be open to what you are sharing that it was traumatic for you, because trauma is not the event, is the response to the event. So trauma is based on your life story.
Yeah. So when you were in the deepest suicidal darkness, right? What exactly pulled you back from the edge? Why do you think it would work for someone listening right now?
I think what pulled me was my work ethic. So I didn't want to wake up tomorrow, but if I woke up tomorrow, I need to go to work and I
Hey.
have to do my job to the best of my ability. So I think that that's what kept me going, because I was like, and at work, I pretended that everything was fine because I didn't want anybody asking me questions or anything, right? Like the shame that I talked about prior. And it just took all the fucking energy out of me because it was a facade. So I was like, okay, well, if I die tonight, then I don't have to go to work tomorrow. But
Yeah.
if I woke up, I brought my ass to work. So I think that connecting with a value that is so important to you. So work ethic is something that is a value that is super important to me. And I think that's what pushed me through.
Kept you
So,
going.
right, it kept me going. So for anybody listening, find out what that value is and how it's presenting in your life so that you can keep you can keep moving. I think that the important thing is not how fast you move, but is that you don't get stuck.
Yeah. One foot in front of the other, right?
Absolutely. And you're going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Slowly but surely sometimes faster than others, sometimes slower than others, but you're going to get there.
Yes.
So a couple more questions before we end, right? And I want to let people know that you can find Zulma on Keeping It Real with Zulma, the Swearing Therapist podcast. You can find her on all major streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of them. Straight down the line, you can go find her, search her name, Keeping It Real with Zulma, the Swearing Therapist podcast. So you graduated, right? Your master's, became licensed. You built Dragonfly Therapy, all while the world kept throwing punches. What kept you swinging when most people would have stayed down?
I grew tired of working in community mental health. So once I became fully licensed, because when you are an intern, you have to take whomever comes through the door. You don't have a choice. But when you are fully licensed, it's like I told the clinical director, like, hey, I really don't want to work with couples. It's not my
Yeah.
jam. Like, I don't want to do that. Here comes a couple because they speak Spanish. So they put it on my schedule. My fucking issue, I'm the only bilingual therapist you have on staff. Like, I don't want to work with couples. So I felt so disrespected, not heard. I was like, okay, you know what? I want to specialize in anxiety, depression, and trauma. So I'm going to create my own agency. Fuck it. So now when a potential client reaches out to me, we do a consultation call. If we are not a good fit, I give you a referral.
Yeah.
But if you want couples therapy, or you have an addiction, or you have a personality disorder, I'm not the therapist for you. The same way that if you have heart issues, you're not going to go to the gynecologist.
Yeah.
I
So
will
true.
refer you to whom I think that is going to help you better. I'm not that person.
Yeah, and that's good, right? That's good as a professional, but also, as a human being, right? To know that you're not just taking patients to take patients, right?
Right.
'Cause a lot of people can do that. They can just take patients to make the money, but here you are, you want to make those connections, and it's powerful. So if you could go back, right, and sit with your 42-year-old self the night before she started college, what single sentence would you whisper in her ear?
You got this, baby girl.
And look at you, you did, you got through it. So last question, right? For the person listening right now who feels completely broken, hopeless, and ready to quit, what's the one non-negotiable truth you need them to tattoo on their soul before they turn this podcast off?
That the world needs your input. If you woke up today, that means that your mission in life is not complete. Keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you're going to come on the other side of the challenge you're currently facing. We need you in the world. We need your purpose to be fulfilled by you, not by Jimmy, not by Zulma, not by Peter, by you, because we all bring something to the world that the only ones who can fucking do it is us.
Is us. Yeah.
So, and you have 100% track record of being successful at overcoming challenges. How do I know? Because you are here. So all the shit that you've been through could not take you out. Why is this fucking particular challenge different?
Different.
And
Yeah.
remember that when you overcame those challenges, you didn't have the answers. You just kept going one fucking day at a time. So if one day is too long, anything that we are going through in life, we can break it down into smaller pieces. If I tell you that you are going to be feeling like whatever is you're going through, you had to deal with it for 20 years, you're gonna fucking hell no. But if I ask you, can you push through the next 15 minutes? Well, yeah, okay. So you just focus on the next 15 minutes. And at the end of the 15 minutes, you rinse and repeat. 4 of those make 1 hour, 24 of those make 1 week, and so on and so forth.
So forth. Yeah.
It's like you have it in you. You forgot that you have it in you, but you have it in you. And the world needs you.
Yeah, the world needs you, and those are powerful words, right? And as we close, right, I want to tell people you can find Zulma at Keeping It Real with Zulma, the Swearing Therapist podcast. You can also find her on Instagram, the Swearing Therapist the Swearing Therapist, and you can find her at Dragonfly Services as well, her website. So Zulma, I don't even have words left. You didn't just survive; you turned every scar into a lighthouse for the rest of us drowning in the dark. You showed us that the warrior isn't the one who never falls. It's the one who keeps getting up, keeps moving to a new country, keeps starting over at 42, 50, 60, and still chooses the ocean over bitterness. To every listener who's been through hell and back, who's staring at their own diagnosis, their own trauma, their own I'm too old, Zulma just handed you the map. Your internal hero is already awake. You just heard her voice in stereo. Zulma, thank you for bleeding on this microphone so we could all heal. You didn't just come on the show. You walked in and reminded every single one of us that we are bigger than whatever tried to break us. We love you, warrior. Come back anytime. Until next time, stay dangerous with your dreams. Uncle Jimmy out.